when I turned 18, I got £3,000 from Nana and Grandad that had been saving that money their whole lives for me to buy a car, and I lost that money within 24 hours. £2,000 on William Hill and then another £1,000 on Labrooks online. So I won £5,000 on Donald Trump to win the election. That's what I told my friends and my partner, but I had another £6,000 that I had in the slips from the shops as well. So I won £11,000 in a total. Like I said, I only told my partner at the time and my friends at the time that I'd only won £5,000 because I wanted to keep the rest, the other £6,000 to gamble. So.
Alright, my name is Colin Brown and welcome to the first episode of the Leap podcast. Podcasts helped me so much in my own recovery from my gambling addiction, and I hope that you could all take some in from each episode and guest that we have on. My first guest is Jack Metcalfe. How's it going, bud?
I'm doing well, thanks, Colin. So today I'm 395 days since my last gambling bet, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I kind of struggled with gambling addiction for 11 years. Obviously, I'm over a year now in recovery. So, yeah, I'm in a really good place just now. Obviously, helping with Gambling Leap and doing some presentations and whatnot, and kind of helping spreading the gambling awareness talks and whatnot. And, overall, I'm in a really good place just now. And, yeah, I'm quite content with life and whatnot. So, yeah, it's good to join you on the podcast. So, I'm excited to do the podcast with you.
I've been thinking myself of getting a podcast up and running, so you were kind of like the perfect first guest because I've kind of seen your whole recovery right from the start when you first reached out to me, and I've seen you're a perfect example how someone should be doing a recovery. You're smashing it, and I'm looking forward to hearing your full story because I've not properly heard it all. So if you just fire away, go back to the start, how it all started, how you gambling kind of took off in your life.
Yeah, so I began gambling at 14, but to begin with, obviously, I got brought up in quite a good household. My mum was a nurse and my dad was a firefighter. Kind of younger days, I was always loved football, golf, just kind of being around friends and whatnot as well. So unfortunately, mum and dad got divorced when I was 11 or 12. So that was kind of a turning point. I kind of struggled with kind of their divorce and whatnot, and then kind of struggled just kind of getting by and whatnot. I was always fine at school and whatnot, but I kind of used to struggle with like meeting my mum's new partners and whatnot. So by the time I was kind of 14, I was really close with my friend and his dad, so they were putting football coupons on at weekends, so I kind of got into gambling with them. So it was just like kind of a pound, to be honest with you, £1 or £2 most Saturdays, and then that obviously escalated to when I was 16. I was kind of in shops all the time, but when I was first gambling, like I remember my first win, I must have placed like 10 or 12 bets over like a couple of Saturdays in a row, and the first one, I was actually at the Dundee United game and I was driving home from the game and I was listening to it on the radio back then when you never really got the scores on your phone or that. And I had my slip in my hand and I was listening to them. I was like, oh, there's the first one, second one, third one. So I was waiting on the fourth one. Pretty sure it was East Fife actually. And the 1-2 won that day. And I think my first win was £31.72 or something. So yeah, obviously at 14 I was like, oh my God, like 30 odd pound, that's amazing. So yeah, that was probably the first initial step in me thinking like, oh, the buzz I'm getting off this is like amazing. So kind of after that first win, it then escalated for going for like £1 every Saturday to the £2 or the £3 mark. So that was kind of the first stage of me kind of seeing an increase in stakes anyway. So kind of from that moment on, it was just the same kind of cycle. Like I said, until I was 16, my mum was with a partner at the time who I didn't really get on too well with. So my resort to get out of that was to go into the bookmakers and the bookies. So Yeah, that kind of became a ritual just to get out of the house and whatnot. So I used to lie to my mum and say I was going to meet girls, or I was going up to McDonald's with the boys, or I was going to the AstroTurf to play football. And yeah, that was all lies really. I was just going to sit in the bookies for a couple of hours. So I used to get a £10 or £20, and then yeah, I would just try and make that last as long as I could. I kind of remember walking into the shop for the first time, and I was kind of amazed really with all the screens and all the different stuff you could watch, virtuals, horse racing, dogs, you name it. It was there really. It was right in front of you, and then obviously you've got the slot machines and whatnot as well. So yeah, that was kind of the first stage where I was probably exposed to gambling the most, and that obviously I was still pretty naive and everything at that time, but to me it was kind of just to get a wee bit of a kind of escape really, to be honest with you, and get away from what was kind of going on at home and whatnot. So yeah, that was the start of it anyway, and that's probably where the downward spiral started. When I was 17, like I had a part-time job. I did it at 16, but that was kind of when I started putting all my money I was earning was going into gambling, and yeah, that was when kind of the big problem started. I started to use like online betting as well with my friends' accounts, and yeah, I was basically just working to gamble basically, and there was no money going in my pocket or that. Most people were going out seeing friends and whatnot, or kind of drinking. I was doing that, but most of my money was getting spent on gambling at that stage. So yeah, the early days for me, looking back, it probably wasn't the best anyway, just being so open to gambling. But at the end of the day, gambling, even at 14, it was probably a normal thing to do for most boys who enjoyed football, and it was more of a social thing. But for me, it was very easy to fall into that trap, and eventually, obviously, here I am today. So yeah, that was kind of me up to 17, and then when I was 17, like I said, I was more or less betting all the time. And then just before my 18th birthday, I won £5,000 on Donald Trump to win the election. That's what I told my friends and my partner, but I had another £6,000 that I had in the slips from the shops as well. So I won £11,000 in a total. Like I said, I only told my partner at the time and my friends at the time that I'd only won £5,000 because I wanted to keep the other 6,000 to gamble. So obviously there's more signs of just lies and whatnot. So yeah, winning £11,000 just before your 18th birthday is quite scary, to be honest. At that time I thought like I'd kind of mastered gambling so early on as well. But I booked a holiday with my partner at the time to South Africa. That was like £3,000, and then I think I had £8,000 I had left to play with, and then I lost that within about 2 or 3 weeks. So obviously I was just chasing that high. When you win that amount of money, you know yourself, you kind of just you keep going and you keep going because you think you can win more. But reality is it can go really, really quickly. And then when I turned 18, I got £3,000 from my nana and granddad that had been saving that money their whole lives for me to buy a car, and I lost that money within 24 hours. So that was the first day I could gamble on my 18th birthday. They sent me the money, first day I could gamble, and I think I lost £2,000 on William Hill and then another £1,000 on Ladbrokes online. So yeah, maybe more could have been done to help protect me at that point, but nothing was done, unfortunately. It was always just, do you want to continue betting, obviously.
Aye, that's it. See, when you were like 14 and you would go putting the bets on with your mate's dad and whatever, was it him that was placing the bets for you, obviously, you're 14-year-old?
Yeah, he was one placing the bets.
Aye, probably no think there's a problem. It's only £1 and kind of it's just a bit fun, but like I say, it's no fun for everybody, or it certainly doesn't turn out to be fun for everybody.
No, exactly.
So he probably didn't. He probably just wasn't aware of the dangers, and it's probably knowing him, but it's now that's obviously what we're kind of trying to do is increase the awareness in parents and kind of their children could get involved in gambling from a small stake and get that one. It's just being aware that that could create problems.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think he was obviously, they never thought anything of it, to be honest with you, just because, to be fair, most of my friends, like dads, they were all doing the same thing, and nobody really thought like a couple of pounds could end up getting you into a gambling addiction, when the reality is, like you said, people kind of need to understand that if we're exposing kids that young, then it's going to be so easy for them to fall into that trap. So, yeah, I think, especially now anyway, there's a lot of like loot boxes and games like that, where children are even exposed to gambling types even younger. Like, kids are now doing these at like anything from like 8 or 9, to be honest with you. So parents definitely need to be aware of like the problems and how easy it is to fall into the traps and getting dopamine and the buzz of kind of winning things as well, because it's all so relatable.
I think, especially the gaming side of things, it's changed so much over the years. Like when I was playing computer games when I was younger, they tend to be like you could complete the game, whereas now I think the games are basically designed to be everlasting. So you're always kind of chasing the best players or the best. I don't really know how it works, to be
Yeah,
fair.
no,
Best guns
100%.
or
But the thing is, as well, with like YouTube and Twitch and streaming sites as well, like kids are watching these and kind of taking inspiration off them, when the reality is they're probably getting them for free, but it's so easy for them to start linking two and two together, and before you know it, you're taking money off your mum's credit card. I forgot to mention that there, but I used to play FIFA. So I think it was one Christmas, must have been 15 or 16, and it was kind of the same. I spent £200 of my Christmas money and then stuck another 200, £250 on my mum's card. So I'm pretty sure most adults who have children that play FIFA or any game really have probably got a similar story to that as well, and how easy it is for kids to then take it to the next level and spend a little bit more and whatnot as well. So, yeah.
like I say, it's just getting that understanding that it could develop into a problem. Like if you arrest it or kind of realise it when they're young, you're more chance of kind of avoiding it being a major issue later on in life. Aye, so you were probably maybe early 20s by now in your story.
Yeah, well, I'll go to 18 because there
Aye,
was
go for it.
probably what happened was after I had the Donald Trump election win, a couple of months after that, I started full-time work after I left school. I was just working in a local golf club, and I think it was Cheltenham week. It would have been Cheltenham, aye. Yeah, the week of Cheltenham. Obviously, as you know, when you're in deep, you set research and research. If you're not gambling, you're looking at what the next big bet is or whatnot. So, yeah, the week before Cheltenham, basically, when I was working, I think I bought every newspaper under the sun for about a week, and I was just studying everything. And yeah, at the start of the week, I put 5 £200 bets on, just like 5 horses on each one. So the first 3 days, I think I've had a couple winners on each. So basically, all the 5 ACCAs were still in play. And then by the Saturday or the day of the National, I was waiting for. Oh, it would have been entry, not Cheltenham. Sorry. Day of the National, I was waiting on Tiger Roll to win the National. So I was waiting for £26,000 at that point. So I don't know if you watched that race or anything, but basically it was the final furlong. It was leading by about 20 lengths, and it was going and going, and then I just like put the brakes on. It couldn't run any faster. So basically there was another one coming on the line, head bob, inches, and I wasn't sure what way it went. Obviously I'm sat there watching this in the golf club, absolutely bricking it, thinking, oh, I don't know if he's done it this well. They went to obviously the judges and the photo finish, and it felt like it was about 2 hours, but obviously it must have been a couple of minutes or whatever. But my heart was pounding at my chest and everything like that day. So yeah, eventually it won. So there's me sat in the golf club on my own thinking, Christ, £26,000, what's going on here? This is the best feeling ever. Again, I've mastered gambling. There's 2 wins in a couple of months where I've won big. So kind of after the loss of losing the money with Donald Trump, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I've got another restart. Brilliant. So, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest ones I ever had, but probably one of the worst ones, because from then it was just full attack mode and just absolutely going for it. Every single chance I got was to kind of meet that money again. Again, the stakes had increased, but they just got bigger and bigger. And again, I booked a holiday with my partner at the time, but the money lasted not even a week, to be honest with you. I had 26,000 and I wanted more and more. I wanted 40, I wanted 60, and to me it was about building that money up. I thought I'd found something, so I kept going with the way I was going, but that way I was going was never going to work.
Aye, I think just the nature a compulsive gambler will always want more, so we'll never we could get £1 million. There's not a chance that would stop gambling, because we're craving that feeling rather than the actual money. The money is like what we pretend it's what it's about, but it's not. And aye, so how did it kind of develop for there? Did you hit any rock bottoms around that time, or was
Yeah, so that's probably after losing the money and that. Obviously, I'd got into the fact that I was betting a lot bigger, like £500, maybe £1,000. So that's kind of when the real issues started. I started taking quite big loans. So I took £20,000 loan out when I was 19, and yeah, that was the same really. That money was just gone within a matter of days. I was just so erratic with what I was doing, and I was just chasing that high. I wasn't getting that high from £5, £10 bets anymore. It had to be something big, and I had to feel like I was winning big as well. So yeah, that was kind of when that started. And then I was speaking to my dad. Was working away at this point, so I was having to borrow money off my dad to trying to get me to my next payday. And then when I was getting paid, I was losing that money within 24 hours again. So I'd wait for the money to go in at half 12 at night, and then I wouldn't even go to sleep. I would just sit and gamble on absolutely anything. Basketball, table tennis, you name it, I was gambling on it. It's so easy to bet on anything. So then play market for me was absolutely a gold mine, to be honest with you, at that time of night anyway, because I would rather just be able to get bet straight away instead of trying to do anything else. So I probably should have been sleeping if I was working at 4 in the morning, but I would just sit and gamble and go to work with no sleep and somehow manage it.
I think when you're chasing that money as well, I've been there myself, when you're like 11 o'clock, right, I'm going to bed, I'm up in 5 hours or whatever, and you're down 50 quid. You're like, right, once I get that 50 quid back, I'll go to sleep. And let us say you could have done the same. You're up till you're up for work, and you're like, shit, I need to. I've still not got my money back. I'm in a lot of debt here, or I've lost a lot of money during the night, but you still didn't accept it. You kind of, I mean, it goes on through it the next day as well. You didn't stop. You didn't like draw a line. You're always kind of chasing that extra money.
Yeah, your mind's just so fixated to gambling. I think you mentioned it in the book as well. Like, you wake up and the first thought is, I'll pick my phone up and I'll see it. Right, what can I bet on now? And I used to, so like when I was driving to work, it was like 40-minute drive, so I would have to have something on my drive to work. If I didn't have anything on, my head was all over the place. That's when I would worry about everything else that was going on around me, like the debt and due and friends money, you name it. But if I didn't have something on in that short period of time, that's when my head would go crazy.
Aye, I mean, I drive up to Dundee quite a lot just now. Obviously, my girl's up there, so there's actually there's 2 different routes that I could go on, and one of the routes you don't really get a good signal. I don't know if you're the same. And I've seen a girl before up in Dundee, and every time I drive up, I used to get really frustrated. But if I went a certain route and I had bets on, because I would be the type of person that would be driving and I'd have my phone between my legs, and I wouldn't be. You're not even looking at the road. No. You're putting yourself and everybody else in danger, but you didn't care, because you're like, you need that every point in the tennis, every run in the cricket. You can't like. I wasn't the sort of person that would put a bet on and then check the results later on at night. It would be like I needed the whole thing about the bet was I wanted the constant kind of feeling.
Yeah, the ups and downs, eh? That was the
Aye,
same, to be fair, on that road. Like, obviously, I've worked there for years, so I knew exactly where I would lose signal. So it got to a point for me where if I was watching someone, I would actually pull in at like a lay-by and sit and watch. Say if it was a race, for example, I'd watch the race, and if the next one was 10 minutes, I'd like pit stops basically. That I knew where I would lose signal and where I could get by. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, I was actually stopping on my way home so I wouldn't lose connection, so I could just keep watching the race or whatever. So
aye, or I would take a longer route because I knew that it was like I'll get a signal on that road. It's going to take me longer to get there. But aye, it's just mad the way that we kind of work when we're gambling. But
yeah,
I just continue on.
yeah. So obviously I had that £20,000 loan, and then I kind of started taking smaller loans as well. Obviously, I wasn't going to get anything near 20,000, but it was a couple of £100 loans, credit card. So yeah, eventually I was in. I think it was about £26,000 worth of debt. Obviously, a lot of money for someone who's kind of 19-year-old. A couple of weeks before, I'd kind of lost my partner I was with as well. Obviously, she was just fed up the lies and not having money and having to borrow off her and whatnot. So yeah, that was kind of. She had every right to do that at the time. To be fair, I was a horrible person, and you can only take so many lies for so long. So yeah, that's kind of obviously one of my regrets. But like I said, I was obviously ended up quite a lot of debt. So my mum and dad knew about my gambling previously, but this was kind of the first time where they kind of stepped back and they were like, what are you actually doing here, Jack? So that was kind of the first time my dad had to bail me out. So he kind of paid everything off for me, and then obviously told them that was me. I was stopping. Don't even think it was a couple of days, to be honest with you, maybe a day or two, and then yeah, I was back on just gambling again. I went to Gamblers Anonymous, just went to one and kind of walked in. It just wasn't for me. I was still 19, 18 at that point, and I was a young man kind of walking into somewhere where everyone was like 60, 70 nearly. So yeah, I went to that one day, and then the next day I was gambling. So maybe if I'd stuck at it, probably maybe would have helped at the time, but I just didn't really feel like I could connect with anyone or anything at that point. So yeah, like I said, I kind of got back into gambling, and yeah, just escalated again. So even though I'd cleared all the debts, I ended up going and being due friends money and taking more loans out. Just kind of the same cycle again, to be honest with you. I wasn't really having any wins or anything like that. It was just up and down, and then obviously having to rely on loans to get me by and whatnot. Like I said, there was like 40-minute drive to work. Obviously, it's quite a lot of petrol. If I had a tenner, I would still choose to bet the £10 instead of putting it in the car to get home. There was countless times where I was driving back from my work and the car ran out of fuel. Having to phone someone to come and bring you 10 litres of fuel, it's not great, but yeah, that was kind of how it carried on. And then again, just got myself into a really bad place with loans and whatnot.
The kind of what I'm thinking about that is it's like the embarrassment of running out of fuel and needing to phone someone. It doesn't come into your head when you're gambling. Like I say, it would be like I'm down to my last tenner, but I'll risk running out of fuel and needing to phone somebody to basically explain what's happened. And they'll be like, "Why you run out of fuel?" And it's like, "Well, I've no money." Or can you take the risk rather than actually just owning up to the problem? And that's what the addiction does. You also said about the debts. So your family, did they know about your debts from a young age, or did it kind of fester on a
Nah,
bit
not
before?
really, to be honest with you. Like, it only kind of, I like, I tried to take my life basically at one point, just because I was really struggling with what was going on and whatnot. And basically, my mum and the police found me on a hill basically, and then thankfully, when I fell, I hit a tree, and then I heard my mum shouting on me when I woke up. So, yeah, I went back up to the house, and then I just kind of burst into tears, explained to my mum. My dad was working away, so I had to phone my dad and tell him. and then that was kind of the first time that they were probably aware of how bad the situation was, and that I didn't really feel like I had any other way out, because obviously that's what I tried to do. So that was probably the first time that it was hard hitting for them, but probably put them in a situation where they couldn't really say no.
Aye, yeah. So what age were you when that happened?
19.
19. Aye, so it's quite young, eh? It's obviously the fact that you could get into that amount of debt at that age is a problem on its own. I think. Never mind, obviously, the gambling transactions and the amount of money that's coming out your bank account as a young person. It should be kind of flagged up, I would say, but
yeah, 100%.
But aye, so I just continue on.
Yeah, so kind of the 20s, I was probably would have been COVID. Like, I was probably just struggling. That was a real struggle for me at that point, because I'd obviously went back to gambling, but obviously I wasn't working or anything like that. But there wasn't really anything you could really gamble on. So that's kind of when I then got into slots and poker and whatnot. So that period was probably the worst, because of how easy it was to lose money. So I was playing slots and just losing thousands, more or less, as soon as I got paid. And it was just the same cycle, to be honest with you, for like the next year or two, just taking loans and just struggling to get by and whatnot. And then eventually, when must have been 21, I met a girl that I went to school with, and then that kind of got me back level anyway, got me to a place where I was kind of happy with. I'd still had these loans, but I'd met a girl, and then obviously she had no idea about the gambling and that, and her dad was a bit of a gambler as well, on horses and that on the weekends, so I was kind of something to bond with him over as well. So as you know, sometimes meeting your partner's dad and whatnot, it's a bit daunting, so kind of gave me someone to speak to him about. Obviously never really understood the issue at that time, but it was kind of a good thing to bond over anyway, as bad as that sounds. But so yeah, I met her, and then I was trying to portray that I was this flashy guy with all this cash, when the reality of it I wasn't. So I kind of just started to probably gamble more to try and do more with her, because my previous missus, she kind of left me because I had no money, basically. And then I basically had £8,000 of loans, and I was struggling. I'd phoned my dad, told him that I was suicidal, and he was like, I'm not giving you any more money. So I was like, what do I do here? What do I do in this situation? And I basically had to sell my car so I could pay everything off, basically. So I had a BMW 1 Series at the time. I think I got 10 grand for it, and then so I managed to clear my loans and that, but then the other 2 grand again was gone within a couple of days, and that's kind of how bad it was. She was asking questions about how I was selling my car and whatnot. My dad had a car in the UK, he works abroad, so I just started using my dad's car. Didn't have any insurance or tax or anything on it, and I was just driving about in it. But that's kind of the way it was. Mum was like, why are you using his car? And I just basically said my dad was fine to use it, but there was never really a moment where he told me I could use it. I just phoned him one day and went, oh, I'm using your car. But that's kind of the person I was. I just turned into a proper horrible person, but nothing. I was just wanting to do anything for a bet at that point. It was as simple as that.
Aye, I could relate to that as well. No for the deceitful side of it, but I used my mum's car for years. I sold my car as well, and it was like mum's like, I just getting my insurance. So she was always there to help me out, but really it wasn't helping me out. It was like feeding my habit, because I was getting the easy option. I was able to sell my car and have money and use her car, so I wasn't really losing out. So I could kind of relate to it in that sense.
Yeah, that's probably how I looked at it at that point as well. Was I'm getting money here, but I've still got a mode of transport, really. So it's such an easy way out.
You're no feeling the hit. Like, I think if you sold your car and had to walk to work, or had to get a bus to get a train and stuff like that, then it's like, right, this has caused me a bit of hassle here. So And I think that's where if I got a wee bit more tough love, maybe it might have helped me. But I know that my family were always wanting the best for me, and they were wanting me to turn the corner. But it was I needed someone a more of a push to stop rather than always kind of thinking that it's going to be fine, because it was fine, but my problem got worse. And obviously, like you say, I was very similar to yourself with the suicidal thoughts, losing partners, losing everything basically, and feeling like there's no way out. So
So then, obviously my partner at the time, my mum told her that I'd had a gambling problem and whatnot, so then she kind of got a little bit worried and whatnot. So yeah, that kind of led to me then like doing gam stop, so just to prove her that I was obviously stopping and whatnot. So I done gam stop at that point, but I was still going into shops or using my friend's account to bet. And obviously my friends at that point, they knew I gambled, but they didn't really know how much I was gambling, to be honest. They thought it was just the same as them. But I was using one of my friend's accounts and probably took the mick a little bit. Like I used to take his account, and then I used to change all the passwords on his account so that I was the only one that could like looking at the account basically, and then I was basically just gambling thousands on it. Had another couple of like big wins, like a couple of thousand here and there, so it kind of was getting me by anyway. And then eventually he found out. He was like, "Lad, what are you actually doing here? Like, you need to stop or something." So he stopped me from using his account. So then I had to go back into the shops. But when I was going into the shops, I was taking like a grand, for example, and putting like 10 bets on, like £100 each. So I had some in for like to cover you for the next time you were going to be able to go into the shop, because obviously I was still trying to hide it from my missus. Again, kind of fell back into the trap of going back to losing everything and taking more loans out. So obviously, as you can tell, I've lost an absolute fortune on taking loans out. I don't know how much I've taken out in loans, but it's a hell of a lot of money. But it was something I probably relied on to get me by. Sorry, I'm just going to try and fix this camera.
Aye, the hassles. I was the same. Loans, credit cards, payday loans, bank charges. Probably a 4-year time. You used to get a bank charge for every time you went overdrawn, and it was like 30 quid, and that was like that was like 20 years ago. And I minded getting my bank statements, and it was like £400 worth of bank charges, but I didn't care. I would, let us say, I would go to the shop and buy chewing gum and get £50 cash back, knowing that I was going to get a bank charge. But as long as I got that money, I didn't care about the consequences. And so I basically got to the point where I needed somebody to dig me out a hole, or I wasn't able to get out of my debt. And that's obviously what I played at. I manipulated to get the money, to get help for people, but it wasn't helping my problem. Like I say, I was just going through the same cycles, letting people down. Obviously, your self-worth goes each time you do this because you didn't want to. I didn't believe that a lot of people are bad people when they're doing it, but it kind of makes you turn into a different person, a totally different person for what you are. And that's what I'm grateful for in my recovery. I believe that I'm turning more into the person that I want to be and am, rather than the person that gambling turned me into.
Yeah, 100%. I think like you were the same with your mum. You always went to your mum. I always went to my dad. But there was never a point where I enjoyed doing that. It was probably just because it was such an easy way out for me, and I knew that I had my dad on strings, but I knew kind of how I'd be able to get the money out of him basically. And I took advantage of him too many times at the end of the day, but it was so easy to continue doing that. So like you said earlier, hard love probably would have been 100 times better, but at the end of the day, it's your loved ones. You're going to do absolutely anything for them.
I totally agree. I think he would have definitely be wanting the best for you. He'd be like, right, look, Jack, can stop it. I had enough. He knows that you're a decent guy, so it's like, right, he will know right for wrong. But that's where with addiction, it's not that plain and easy. it needs the work and it needs proper interventions in place, or it'll just you'll keep letting down the people that you said earlier about when they would pay off your debt, and then within a couple of days you would be back gambling. I was the exact same. I was hours, sometimes minutes, and after like breaking my heart, crying my eyes out to my family, telling them I'll never do it again, and then as soon as I found money somewhere, I'd be like straight down to the bookies. And that is how powerful it is. It totally changes everything about you, and aye, it's not a nice place to be.
Nah, you turn into a horrible person, like. But yeah, so kind of from that point, it was like I said, revolving door, kind of same cycle into shops and whatnot. And then my partner found out that we were basically trying to look into buying a house, and I kind of had to explain to her I've got like all this money on like loans, so I had a couple of grand on loans and whatnot, and then she had basically just moved into my mum's house, and then obviously all this came out. So my mum found out again, dad found out again, and then just he had to pay me everything off again so I could try and get a house basically. So this was the first time where there was proper intervention to try and get me to change. So my dad bought me like 10 blocks of counselling, so I was going to counselling every 4 days for like an hour with this lady, a local lady. And to be honest with you, to begin with, it was really, really good. Kind of just opening up about everything, just properly being able to speak to someone about kind of the issue really. So she kind of gave me some things to help it and whatnot. One of the things she gave me, it helped at the time, but it was probably one of the worst things to happen, was she gave me to go and play games on my phone. So Candy Crush, I was playing darts live and stuff like that, but all these things had like gambling things on them when I look back now anyway. So yeah, but it was really good, to be fair. That was the first time that I had a proper stop. So I think I stopped for 5.5 months, I think it was. But then when I eventually went back to gambling, I was telling everyone else that I was still off gambling. So I remember it said I was 1 year, and I was sending it to my girlfriend saying, "Oh, look how good I'm doing, by the way, this is brilliant." When I was like 2.5 grand in debt to all my friends and whatnot. So yeah, the counselling was okay for a period of time, but after like 9th session, I just felt like it was very repetitive. Didn't really feel like I was going anywhere, and she was kind of trying to put the blame onto my parents for like splitting up and whatnot. So it was probably a bad excuse, but I couldn't justify me gambling because of my parents, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't feel like it was their fault at all. I felt like I was, like, my parents, if anything, were the ones who helped me the most when I was struggling. And yeah, that was kind of probably what took me back to gambling, because I couldn't really be the one who was blaming it on them when I knew it was all down to me at the end of the day. They've helped me as much as they could, and I was the one who lost everything, and I was the one that was continuing to gamble after them, just telling them I would never ever do it again.
Aye, like you say, all the kind of things that you've said, well, kind of like you mentioned Gamblers Anonymous, you mentioned counselling, and I do believe that I learnt a bit off each of them, but it was never going to make me stop, because I believe that the problem was deeper lying, and I needed to tackle it myself, like you say there. Can you blaming it on things that had happened when you were young or whatever? I mean, some people have got a lot of trauma that needs dealt with in counselling and stuff like that, and that's fine. But not everybody's the same, and tackling a problem by going down the same route as everybody else, I didn't believe that's I believe the more options out there to help people, the better. Like I say, counselling and support group meetings and stuff could work for some people, and that's great. We will always support that, but there's other options that, like say the Leap app that's getting developed. I believe that will have techniques that will help people. I've absolutely no doubts if somebody uses it for 3 months, for example, they will be in a better headspace. I think an app was something that you done as well, can download to just keep track of days. But we'll speak about that later. I'll let you finish off your kind of story.
Yeah, so then obviously I got back into it, like I was saying, I was just pretending to everyone that I wasn't gambling. And then over that couple of month kind of period, I was just the same, kind of betting on absolutely anything. I got, I realised, well, sorry, I got told from my partner where we found out where I was having a baby. So this was kind of a turning point for me to some degree. So I was like, right, off my own back, I'm just going to try and stop here. So I managed to do probably 3 months or something, for example, and then again I fell back into the trap. So this was probably the biggest and the worst time in a way. I had friends that were just giving me hundreds and hundreds, and they didn't really know how bad it was again. So yeah, I had I can't remember who it was, but I had someone to win the Europa League, and that was 10 grand. So that cleared everything for that time. But then again, as we always know, fall back in the same trap, and then you're back to the same cycle. So yeah, basically I was borrowing off all my friends again, another couple of loans, and then my partner, obviously we're getting close to the birth and whatnot. She was like, "You sure you're not gambling? Your mood swings have been really weird. Like, I'm really worried about you." I went, nah, I'm just really stressed about having the kid. Like, still living with my mum at this point as well. So I was like, nah, it's just not ideal. But I went, well, just make it work. Obviously, she's about to go on maternity leave, and she wasn't getting great money. So I was like, there's more pressure on me. So that kind of just pushed me to gambling even more, and just gambling so erratically. I remember she used to go to her bed at like 7 o'clock when she was pregnant, and I used to just sit up and gamble all night because it was just all I've known and everything. So, yeah, on the day my daughter was born, she was born at 6:28 in the morning, and then we're in the hospital bed at night. She was obviously in the bed with the baby beside her, and I was on the floor, and I was still gambling then. So, yeah, I lost a couple grand that night. I've never told her that, but yeah, to gamble on the day your daughter's born, it's pretty bad.
Aye, I mean, I've also had a daughter in the past 6 months as well, and it's one thing that I'm kind of grateful for because I know that I would be the exact same. See, if I was in the height of my gambling when my daughter was born, I probably wouldn't be. I'm not saying I wouldn't be interested. Of course, I would be interested, but I always wanted a baby, and I always knew I would love them a lot. But if I was gambling, I know that gambling would have took priority because it always did. Anything in my life that came along, girlfriends, family, anything I enjoyed, I didn't enjoy as much as gambling. So it's a scary thought, and it's something that I'm very grateful for where I am today. Is I could give my daughter all my time, I could be present, and no worry about my bets because I'd be holding her checking my bets, and I'd be feeding her, checking my bets. I just know exactly what it'd be like. You're not getting that bonding time because what's happening in the Newport County game or whatever matters more than that time, which it's just no, it's not a nice place to be. But there's so many people up and down the country that will be in that place that's affecting their child's life, and that's what gambling does, and that's what addiction does, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, it's not just the gambler; it's everyone it affects around them. Like my partner at the time, I was telling her I was giving her a break by taking the wee one for a walk, but I was sat pushing the pram, putting bets on. But that money I was betting was the money she was more or less relying on to get her by as well during the maternity leave and whatnot. So yeah, it's not just the person it affects; it's everyone around them. But yeah, like I look back on that, kind of my burn would have been 9 months when I stopped, but that 9 months I look back with like proper regret in it because I kind of just lost the start of my child, like watching her grow and everything like that. Yeah, I can remember it, but it's someone I can't really remember too clearly, so kind of hits hard, that one, just knowing that I was so invested in someone that wasn't my daughter, if that makes sense. But that's just the place it takes you.
And that kind of shows you where you are today, though. You're totally different in that sense. And you can't change the past. It's like I always say that you you could look back at it and learn from it. But if you focus on that regret and guilt that's there, then you'll go back to it because you'll feel so bad about yourself. So
Yeah, 100%.
I think the fact that you've turned it around is obviously a massive positive, and you've got another baby on the way as well. So that'll just give you more incentive to kind of make this time, make it kind of
Make it proper, aye.
properly take it in it.
100%. I think, like, I look back at that with a bit of shame, yeah, but if I focused on that, like you said, that would have brought me back to gambling. It's like everything else, all the other bad decisions I made, you know yourself as well. I'll remember speak about this a little bit more at the end, but yeah, if I focused on that too much, I would just end up going back to it. So yeah, just to kind of go to near the end of the story, basically, the same cycles. I got to the stage where the last 2 years of that, it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest with you, like, because I was kind of hiding it that much and keeping it to myself, and to be honest with you, I was just trying to get by, and I tried to take my life again just before my daughter was born. Like, suicide was always on my mind, and I think you mentioned that a couple of times as well. Like, it just plays on you, but you're not actually suicidal until you feel like you're suicidal. But when you get money in, it all just disappears. So sometimes I feel like it's quite bad when I say that, but that's just where your mind is and where it takes you.
I think I probably woke up every day, or no, the first thing in the morning, but every day I'd be thinking about it. I'd be thinking I can't keep going on like this. But I think in reality, I didn't want to take my own life, but I wanted to take away the pain that I was causing, because I wasn't just causing it to myself, like you say, I was causing it to everybody, and I couldn't stop it, and I couldn't bear the fact that I'm hurting everybody. Kind of trust had went, and kind of how am I got to rebuild this trust? And it was just you just thought you had no way, because I'd exhausted all the avenues that were your traditional methods. I thought,
Yeah.
right, I've nowhere to turn. I've no light at the end of the tunnel, and
No, you're stuck, basically.
I genuinely thought I was got to be a gambler the rest of my days, or I was going to end up needing to do it at some point. And it's no a good place to be at all. So I just tell us how you changed.
Like I said there, I was kind of just tried that again, and then basically my partner was out, and one of my best friends, he was out as well. She obviously didn't know anything about how much I'd been gambling and whatnot, and he was like, "Oh, it's all right. I'm glad I'm helping you and Jack, like, getting by and whatnot." So obviously I was just telling him it was to help the missus get by and whatnot when I was due him a couple of £100. So he said to her on the night out, she came home, obviously screaming the place down, absolutely in tears, devastated, like, we've got a child and I'm still doing this. And then obviously everything else came out with how much debt I was in. And so yeah, again, my dad had to bail me out one more time. And then that's obviously when me and you had the conversation the next day. And then ever since then, I've been able to turn my life around, thankfully. But yeah, that night anyway, I remember her just coming in and screaming at me, and I was just bursting into tears, grieving. Like, it was weird because I knew she was annoyed and I knew that she might leave me and whatnot, but it was more the feeling of, like, it's out there now. I can breathe again, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need to hide it. And my dad was home at this point as well, and it probably helped me that he was there, because, like, I could actually speak to him instead of having to phone him and whatnot. So yeah, that was the turning point anyway. So that kind of whole 11-year period, that was just lies more or less every day, struggling to get by, losing relationships, and just, I look back at it now anyway, and it just shows how addicted I was. Like, it's very easy to fall into the trap of just placing bets and whatnot, but until you realise you're actually addicted, then you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And it's something that I'm quite keen on now, is just trying to share stories with people, because people know they're addicted, but they don't take enough support and listen to other people's stories. Like you, for example, when me and you spoke, like, that was probably the first time in my whole gambling life that I'd actually listened to someone and was taken aback by, and took great pride in listening to you and thinking, right, I can do that as well. It probably helped that you were just across the road, like, but Yeah, it was definitely something that helped me massively, and yeah, I'll always be grateful for your help anyway.
And I think that's where, like, doing podcasts, and I think you're talking about possibly doing one yourself as
Yeah,
well. And I think it's good to do that because it just, like, you don't know who's listening. Because I listen to podcasts, like I say, the people that I've never met before in my life, and I took inspiration for them, seeing how they've turned the corner. It didn't have to be for gambling, it could be for other addictions or just people who've done well in life. They've brought themselves up for bad upbringings and now they've got businesses that are smashing
right.
it. And
Yeah,
it's kind of just looking at the people and saying, well, can they've done it, and how have they done it, and how's their outlook, and how are they, can what are they doing to get to that stage? It kind of gives you the kind of tools to then manage your life and push your life to the next level. So, I think it will be great. Obviously, the Leap podcast, and we'll see what you're kind of doing yourself.
yeah.
And I've no doubts that will help some people, and can it just opens up the conversation. If nothing else, it breaks the stigma. It allows people a platform to kind of share uh, how
It's
they
weird
are.
actually because there was a local guy who I'm quite pally with, and he's kind of been messaging me saying that he's been struggling and whatnot. And that was the first thing I said to him. I went, just listen to a couple of podcasts. So I gave him your first podcast, and then I was telling him to try and listen to the book and whatnot. But he texted me last night, and he was like, "Oh, that's actually helped me massively because it's so easy to relate to like these stories. Because anyone with any addiction, if you're relating your stories to different people with the same problem, it's so relatable, and you can take such enthusiasm really from what these people are saying and what they're listening to."
Aye, and I think that's why support group meetings work for so many people, because they're around like-minded people and people with the same kind of addiction. But that's, again, I think, a new style doing that as podcasts,
Yeah,
because you're still getting that relatable content or relatable stories for people, but you're no confined to doing it on a Wednesday night or um, kind of after a long hard day at work. You
yeah,
could do it
exactly.
while you're out for a walk, or you could do it at the gym, or you could do it while you're lying on your bed. There's more flexibility with that. And like I say, it's not to knock one method of doing it, it's giving other options. And I'm sure other options will help people, especially starting podcasts and listening to podcasts.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just more of like a modern day approach. Like a lot of these things were back like when gambling wasn't really as big as what it is, or any addiction. Kind of everything's grown a lot more, especially with technology and whatnot. And a lot of people probably feel more comfortable just sitting listening to podcasts and whatnot instead of having to go, like you said, after a hard day or whatever. So yeah, they definitely help. I think they can help massively. Like that's something that you've always told me to focus on, is listening to podcasts and getting your mind right. And obviously, Leap have got the 8-step guide as well. So I didn't follow that exactly, but that was more or less mirrored to what I done basically. So yeah, that was something that helped me massively during that time, was the 8-step guide. And if anyone is struggling with gambling, I cannot recommend that enough. Like that was the one thing that probably changed my whole mindset and kind of brought me to the place I am now, taking myself out of my comfort zones, doing stuff that I didn't really want to do, but I kind of fell back into it. And like at the time, I wasn't, when I was gambling, I had no fitness, and I lost all my love for playing football and playing golf and whatnot. But I got them back. But as well as that, I was taking on new hobbies and doing things that I didn't really like. Like I done a high rocks. Like anyone that knows me knows that that was nothing I would ever do. I'd probably sit and say, "What are these boys doing?" But I took myself so far out of my comfort zone that I had someone to just focus on and someone to be proud of doing. And it took me like nearly 2 hours to do it, but for me to do that, it was more about being able to complete it and saying, "Look, you stopped gambling like 7 months ago, and now look what you're doing." So just about changing your whole mindset, and it's something that I still work on every single day. Like we said earlier, I drive 40 minutes to work there and then another 40 minutes back. So yeah, I've got podcasts on every single day, and it's just about keeping yourself in touch. Because if I kind of took these things away, I would definitely end up back gambling. I've got no doubt about that. And as soon as I leave a little door open, then I'll fall back in. And the way I feel now is probably the best I've ever felt since I was about 10 or 11. So there's no reason why this can't continue, and I'm happy with the person that I'm kind of becoming.
I think personally, create like it just creates so much more self awareness. See you doing that high rocks and completing it, and you've challenged yourself into doing something that you're maybe feeling uncomfortable doing.
Yeah,
So it's doing the things and completing them that brings back that self worth that we obviously didn't have when we're gambling, because we kept falling back into the familiar. So we're familiar with gambling. Oh, even though it was causing so much destruction, we kept on just saying, "Oh, it's what you know." Whereas when you start learning stuff that you didn't know and you feel uncomfortable with, that's when you start opening the new pathways to your brain, because at I think 95% of your thoughts are in your subconscious mind.
yeah,
So it's natural when we're struggling with addiction that you always turn back to what you know and what's in your brain. So by challenging that and creating new pathways to your brain, you it changes the structure of that you're thinking. So
yeah, exactly. And it's not something that it can happen overnight. Like, there's about having a process, but that was probably one of the things that I've noticed the most anyway, is just how clear like your mindset can be and how probably aware you can be of everything. But as well as like doing these things, you've probably noticed as well, like you're doing this, but then it has an effect on everyone else around you. Like me and my dad, I've always had a good relationship, even though when I was struggling with gambling. But I feel like it's a lot easier to spend valuable time with him, if that makes sense now. And I can actually sit there and say that, right, I'm making him proud now, and I'm making my life better for my partner, and I'm more there for my daughter, and it's just about everything just feels so much clearer instead of having to worry about this big weight on your shoulders and how am I going to get by and whatnot. So yeah, it's just everything as a whole just feels so much easier.
I think that all comes with living in the present and just can be, let's say, that self awareness and can. So if I'm before, I would be like an autopilot. I would be doing everything on autopilot. I'd be doing everything 100 mile an hour, because it was just the way that my brain worked. Whereas I think when you calm down, when you assess things, like I say, journaling was a big thing in my initial, especially in my initial recovery, because I started reflecting on how my days would go and what was maybe a trigger and how I got through a challenging situation, and then you start when you start thinking positively about how you're tackling these things rather than thinking, oh, I was going to just go back to it, or can what I'm going to be out with these pals today and they all dinner kind of about my problems, so I'm probably going to gamble. So it's just assessing the kind of situations and, let's say, being honest with everybody was massive. I can't gamble. It's no big deal. Everybody knows that I can't gamble, so I didn't get put in a situation that I'm going to be triggered. It just helps so much, and like you kind of touched on as well, that gambling, addiction, everything in life has evolved so much. So I believe that we need to evolve in tackling the can addiction, and that
Yeah,
is what that,
100%.
that is what Leap is intending to do, is just a new kind of style, tackling addiction by becoming more self-aware, challenging your beliefs, and just doing proven techniques that do rewire your brain.
Yeah, no, 100, obviously I've seen some clippets in that of the app as well, and I think that it's like the app's not just going to have an effect on anyone with an addiction. That it's going to have an effect on absolutely anyone who wants to strive to be a bit better or just wants to get themselves in a better mindset. And that app's going to be absolutely spot on for anyone. And it doesn't say that it'll not work for absolutely anyone, because anyone with an addiction, I guarantee it'll help, because it's more or less everything that I've already done and everything I've had in place. So I can guarantee you that'll definitely help. But for like a normal person who maybe doesn't have an addiction but just wants to be in a bit more of a clearer mindset, then I think it's going to be absolutely second to none for anyone.
I think just having that accountability, like you say, for anybody in life, just giving yourself that accountability helps you, and it
Yeah,
helps you become kind of a better person, and creates a healthier mindset. So I'm excited obviously for that coming out. It's probably going to be end of January. We'll probably have in fact, we're going to have a launch day, so we'll get you involved in that as
yeah,
well,
that'll be great.
Jack. Uh, but so just tell us, did you have any kind of relapses in this time? Well, obviously this time you've no, but when you were trying to stop before, you kind of always turn back to it. You probably had hundreds of relapses, but
I lost count probably, but yeah, like I said, like in your mind you shouldn't be gambling, but you're just so used to that feeling, and probably the biggest thing is just feeling alive. Like that sounds that's a silly way to put it, I suppose, but when you've got that bet on, you're just so enthralled in like what's happening and what's around you. Like I actually wanted to stop like so badly because I knew like what I was doing and everything. But yeah, I don't even know how many times I tried to
you,
stop, but it was just
aye,
ridiculous.
because it was that you were used to it in your life. The thought of no gambling again was like a wow. I didn't think I'll be able to do that. It's just so
No,
overwhelming, and that's why tackling it kind of, as I say, one day at a time can. And no kind of saying right, I'm never gambling again. Just set yourself small goals and then
yeah,
start hitting these small goals, and then like it becomes a lot easier. And like me not having a gamble again, doesn't. I'm obviously 2 and a bit year in. It's no really overwhelming. But on my first day, me saying that I'm no gambling again, I'd be like, I can't promise that. I can
yeah, exactly. But
because I tried and failed so many times as well. What about blocks? Did you put blocks in place?
aye, so I had gambling stop. I must have used that a good couple of times, but it was always for like a year or something, and then I would phone up and get cancelled, and then I would be able to gamble, and then rinse and repeat. To be honest with you, I never really used anything else like Moses scheme, Gamban. Like they were not. I wasn't really aware of them, to be honest, until you informed me of them. So yeah, but these are obviously really good tools as well. Probably vital to stopping you from leaving any door open. But yeah, GamStop was probably the only one I ever used, but I managed to find ways and means around that, unfortunately, just because I was that desperate.
Aye, that's another thing that's going to be added on the app is blocking software for gambling sites. So
That was great.
you'll not be able to access all the sites even if you wanted to. So it just builds an extra layer of protection for anybody, especially when they're trying to stop. So obviously I asked you to kind of because you kind of kept yourself accountable in the Discord group that we've got with Gambling Leap, and I seen
Yeah.
you were doing all the right things, and I just felt that you were very similar to kind of how I was recovering. So I thought, you know what, I would quite like to get Jack involved and maybe deliver a talk himself. You obviously work at Dundee Airport, and there was a opportunity to deliver a talk up there. So
Yeah.
instead of me doing it, I thought I'll give you good experience, and I felt like you were at that stage that it would have been good for you as well. So obviously, I asked you, how did that go?
Yeah, no, that was probably one of the most proudest moments I've had in my recovery, to be honest with you. Like, obviously, seeing all the work you've done in that, and then first of all, having the privilege of you like asking me and then being able to deliver a talk, it was pretty really, really good. It was really beneficial. Obviously, the PowerPoint presentations, in my opinion, second to none. I've seen a couple from other companies and whatnot, and don't really think they're anywhere near what we've got going on. So, yeah, that was kind of the first time where I delivered it, and I delivered it pretty well, in my opinion. It's so easy to relate to, and it's probably the first time where I've ever done something like that. But the biggest thing for me was when I was looking around the room and that, and the amount of people who were like taken aback by some of the stats and everything, and how gambling can affect you, and like I said, the stats, what it does to your brain, for example, the dopamine and everything. So yeah, that was the first time I'd ever looked around and people were actually questioning, like, oh, so my partner does this, like, do you think he's a gambler? Sometimes I find what do you call them, slips in their pockets when I'm doing the washing. Does that mean he's hiding it from me? So it's just wee things like that, but it was getting the conversation going, and in my workplace anyway, it's nothing that's ever been spoken about before, and I think it is in a lot of places. So it's just like every single person that walked out that room, and I got feedback from, said it was like one of the best things they've ever heard, and it's something that should be talking about a bit more. And it's just bringing more awareness to people, really. And like I said, I think our presentation is absolutely second to none. And every single person, I think I've done it twice at my work now. So yeah, I've not had a bad report, or every single person that walks through that room feels like it's been so beneficial for them. So yeah, it's something I take great pride in.
Aye, like you say, the presentation is quite kind of easy to deliver because it's been done so well, and you could kind of put your own spin on it and your own relatable stuff through gambling. So it's I think it's just trying to create the awareness that gambling is a massive problem. It's a massive mental health problem, and not just the UK, the whole world. And it's that kind of will be affecting people in the workplace. So I mean, especially like around football, kind of this advertising around not just football, sports in general, and sports fans. So if you go to a football ground, there's probably a lot of people with a gambling problem that are at the game, and they're exposed to so many. Because I mean, you've probably got 90% of football fans that put bets on.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's absolutely everywhere. You can't either watch a football game or go to a football game and there's no advertisement. It's
Aye, so it's something I personally didn't watch as much. I used to watch all sports, every sport, research every sport, but now I didn't really watch it unless I'm maybe out with the boys at the pub, because I just you're exposed to it, and you didn't want to be. And I think that's where advertising needs to be more balanced for me, because there is a growing number of people with a problem, and they've got to surely be taken into account. And and it's just really getting gambling out there as a massive problem. Let's take it as serious as it is.
And I think as well, like you were saying, like I'm the same. I don't really watch any sport now or any football games, because I know at some point in that game I'm going to see a gambling advert or a gambling sign halfway around the football pitch. But I think as well, like these companies are allowed to put all these adverts. I'm sure I counted it once, and it was like at half time or something, there was over like 20 gambling adverts in the period. But there's never any adverts about how to stop gambling or people. There's one what we've got on our presentation is, I think it's in Singapore. And it's reality about gambling, a wee short minute video. But these should be things that should also be getting implemented into like advertisement, where people can see the reality of what's happening, as well as kind of showing both sides of the story instead of showing one. Because there's absolutely, in my opinion, there's nowhere near enough out there that's getting done, apart from a wee small sign at the bottom of the screen that just says, "Please gamble responsibly."
Aye, and that's pointless. Kind of, I mean, it is really pointless. Like something hard hitting, like you say, that a kid's not getting fed at Christmas or not getting any presents at Christmas, because that is the reality of what's happening. Like I say, some people could, or a lot of people could gamble for fun and enjoyment, but there's an awful lot of people that can't, and it causes destruction through relationships, friendships, family breakdowns, not getting to see their child. There's just so many different knock-on effects from gambling, and I believe that it's something that needs to be taken serious in the mental health world and in the workplace, because there'll be people having accidents at work because they're on their phone checking their bets, or they've no slept the night before because we've both done it. So, and luckily,
that was one thing as well for me. Like obviously, I wanted to be open with everyone that was around me. So like a couple of days in, I went into work and I just told everyone to sit in the kitchen and I've got something to tell you. But there was not a single person in that workplace that knew I had gambled or anything like that. They just thought, oh, I may have put a wee bet on now and then. But that just shows like you become a compulsive like liar. You can hide anything. It's so easy to hide anything. So workplaces need to start being aware. Like you said, coming to work on no sleep or anything. Like I'm a firefighter there, and if anything ever happened and I had to go into that, and I'm going in there with like no hours, no sleep, not eating about 3 days, it could be an absolute travesty, really. So
it could be.
Workplaces need to start being more aware of, anyway, in my opinion.
Aye, I was the exact same when I came out and obviously told my story, because I wanted to tell my story to build protection, and the guy that worked with me for the last 3 year, 4 year or whatever, he was like, I never even knew you gambled. And it's like, well, I'd sit and play poker at my desk. And it's like, it was like the whole shift, I just used to play whatever. I used to be checking bets, researching bets. He's like, oh, I just thought you were like researching world news and that. And I'm like, nah, well, I wish I did. But that's obviously the stuff that I do now. I kind of spend a lot of my spare time kind of researching stuff about how we become addicted and try to take inspiration off other people, like I say, and so I'm doing what he probably thought I was doing back then. Now, but amazing how it changes. So you were over in Belgium, Gambling Leap at a conference. How did that go?
Yeah, that was really, really good, to be fair, and it was the day after I was 1 year as well, so it was quite funny how it all tied in together anyway. So yeah, I was basically on a panel with two other people with lived experience. One of them worked for Epic, and Adam, apologies if he's listening, I can't remember where he works, but he's based in Sweden. They've got a good setup over there as well, and obviously I was there representing Gambling Leap. So yeah, I just got asked some questions and whatnot about my experiences with gambling. To be honest with you, it was a really good experience, but it was just it was an eye-opener just to see how some charities and companies are very interlinked with the betting companies. Obviously, the betting companies are obviously paying for a lot of these companies to come in and provide talks and awareness and helping them with prevention, but it did feel like it was a sales pitch at sometimes, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. From my own point of view, I thought it was really good for me, but when you kind of look around the room and you're listening to some people talking and whatnot, it does feel like it's just people try to sell themselves so they can get the next contract.
And so to be honest, when I was first asked, do you know anybody that's I think it was below the age of 30 that had stopped gambling, and obviously thought about yourself because you were 25, I think, when you first stopped gambling, which is really, really young. And to anybody listening, it shows that you can do it. I wish I had stopped when I was 25, but I obviously kept on going. Didn't really realise or appreciate the problem. So getting somebody, they obviously wanted somebody young like yourself to come in. And at first I was like, look, what's it about? And they were like, oh, it's basically operator, the conference is operator kind of run. And I was like, look, I didn't really get involved with that because it's not what we kind of agree with Gambling Leap. But at the same time, I thought it'd be a great experience for you. So obviously I said it'd be good if you could go to see what goes on and get your kind of recovery out there. So I'm really glad that you went, and I think it was a good experience, and it probably gives you the drive to do more in the space. And I think we're kind of aligned with where we want to go with Gambling Leap, and we believe a lot in what we're doing. It's just, let's say, getting workplaces and other people to kind of believe in our morals, and I believe we could get into various different places, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. Like there was a couple of charities there that are going into certain workplaces and that, but when I was listening to them speak, for example, and then listening to how they were acting, and just, I feel like if they're going to present stuff to people, then if that's what their beliefs are, then how are they teaching anyone, in my opinion, like how it should be or whatnot. So yeah, that's just where I feel like we stand out from the rest, where we give an honest view, and it's not just about gambling, it's about changing everything around you. So yeah, it's something that like we said, I'm really passionate about, and I feel like it's something that more needs to be done to get into workplaces, and people need to be more aware of it, because I think that gambling's only going to increase, unfortunately. Like we said about advertisement a couple of minutes ago, you're so exposed to it. So if people can start realising this and start putting foundations in place, then we're just going to be able to protect everyone, not just a couple of people here and there.
Aye, definitely. Let us say that's one of the reasons I kind of got you on board, is because I do believe that you've got the same kind of morals, and outlook as I have, and I wouldn't wouldn't ask anybody else if I didn't believe that they had that. So cheers for going to that conference. And
no problem at all, man.
So we'll just kind of wrap up with, obviously you've got a baby on the way. So what's your kind of plans for the future? Obviously you'll.
So my plans for the future are just to kind of keep doing what I'm doing, to be fair. Obviously making sure I've got everything in plan. Obviously hoping to do a little bit more with gambling, leaping that over into the new year and whatnot. Same as always, to be honest, going into a new year, setting some short-term goals, setting some long-term goals, and just making sure I can achieve them, or at least nearly achieve them. I had 4 short-term and 4 long-term for this year, and I've hit every single one of them. So it's just about keeping my mindset in the right place, carrying on what I'm doing. Like you said, I'm having another little girl, so just about kind of being there for this one and actually enjoying the process, even though there might be a few sleepless nights and whatnot, but just kind of being a bit more present and being a bit more just in the moment anyway. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. As always, kind of just focusing on being a better partner, being a better son, and being a better dad. Kind of the 3 goals that you should always live by, in my opinion, because if you can do them right, then you can probably do anything right. I've got another wee High Rocks coming up. Again, it's not something that I really enjoy, but I'll just keep smashing them out. It keeps my head in a good place. So yeah, and then I'm hoping to start podcasting my own kind of later in the year. Just kind of on comeback stories as a whole, really. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to what's to come. And like I said, I've got the pleasure of working with Gambling Leap and Leap now, so it's something that I like to think that we can keep going forward and kind of get to a place where we're reaching a lot of people, and it's something that I feel like is going to help a lot of people massively, especially with Leap, the new app coming out. I really do think that could change a lot of people's lives. There's not really anything out there at the minute like that, so yeah, I'm really happy with how I've worked on my recovery, where I've got to, and yeah, I just want to keep pushing forward. Maybe do a couple more conferences if they're less gambling company related, but we'll just wait and see about that one.
Aye, like you say, I think complacency is something that we always need to be aware of, and I think if you keep kind of doing all the right things, then it's less likely to come back in, and you're more likely to build, like I say, that healthier mindset. Like I say, I do believe that Leap will help us all. I'll certainly be using it, as well as obviously promoting it, because I believe in it a lot. I believe that it's going to help people. Like I say, I believe if somebody uses it for 3 months, for example, they will 100% be in a better mindset by the end of it. So I will be trying to push it out to people, and because at the end of the day, I do believe it's going to help people. So we'll just wrap it up at that, I think, Jack, unless you've got anything else to say.
No, that's all. Obviously, just another big thank you to you for helping me in my recovery and whatnot. Like, I'll always be grateful, and Gambling Leaps obviously give me tools of how to stop, because I never thought it was possible to stop at the end of the day. And like you said before, you can always get into your mind that you're just going to be a gambler forever, but there is a way out, and it's not an easy way out, but I tell you, if you can get yourself focused and put the right things in place, then anything's possible. Like you said, I was 25 when I stopped 11-year addiction from when I was a young boy, and it is possible to change, and addiction is a hard thing to get over, but it's probably one of the most rewarding things to get over when you can, and I'm just in such a happy place now, to be fair.
That's brilliant. Right, I'll leave it at that then.
No worries,
cheers,
man. Thanks a lot,
cheers for coming on, and
cheers,
thanks for listening.
No worries. Cheers, bye-bye.